All right, it is 6 p.m. and I will call this meeting of Lunenburg Town Council to order. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that we're meeting in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. And with that, I will look for a motion from council to approve the agenda. Moved by Councillor Sanford, seconded by Councillor Birtles. Any additions or deletions to note? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, the motion is carried. That takes us on to the approval of the meeting minutes from January 24th. If I could get a motion to approve those as circulated. Moved by Councillor Ernst, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Any errors or omissions to note? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried unanimously. There's one piece of correspondence for council's information that takes us on to unfinished business. 7.1 water treatment plant solar array engineering design budget revision. And I will turn it over to staff to present their report.
Thank you, Your Worship. Remembering back to the council meeting from August 9th, 2022, Town Council accepted a recommendation from staff to approve an increase to the water utility budget in the amount of $20,500 for the engineering design for a solar array at the water treatment plant site. The value is based on recommendations from a feasibility study compiled by a consultant. The engineering design scope includes electrical, structural, and geotechnical components. After a busy summer, staff compiled and issued an RFP for the engineering design, and the results are summarized in the table in the staff report. It should be noted that there were a couple of submissions with the double star in which the proposals omitted key components of the scope in order to try and match the value of the approved budget. So based on the value of the approved budget and referring back to the table, the budget is insufficient to carry out the engineering design scope. Staff is recommending an increase in the budget to a value of $38,000, with the increased capacity in the budget to be sourced from the Water Utilities Depreciation Fund. There's a draft motion for your consideration.
Thank you, Tyson. Any questions at this stage? All right, seeing none, is it anybody's pleasure to move the draft motion as prepared? Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Sanford. Is there any discussion or debate? Deputy Mayor.
Just through to Tyson, what would this do then to like the overall payback for this project?
So the original payback was around 20 years, I think. So adding the extra budget there, 17,500, I think we're still in the similar kind of ballpark. Again, the fee that was based on the feasibility study projecting forward. I think we're all aware of the power NSP raises that recently went through, raising by 6 or 7%. So I'm reluctant to sort of put all my eggs in the feasibility study basket, but I think it's really a similar timeline to what we expected based on the feasibility study.
Thank you, Tyson. Any further questions, comments, debate? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. All right, that takes us on to notice of motion. There is a notice of motion there regarding the repeal of 15 town policies. Is it anyone's pleasure to move that draft motion as circulated? Moved by Councillor Duggan, seconded by Councillor Sanford. Any questions or comments of the clerk at this stage? Seeing none, I for one am thrilled that we've begun this process and look forward to many more, as I'm sure you're all aware, but otherwise I have no comment. Counselor Halverson, anything?
Just one on the insertion with electric light bills. I just want to, I see that we stopped practice a few years ago, but I just want to make sure by repealing this, if the town itself does have something we want to tuck in there, we're not preventing ourselves from stuffing the envelopes if we need to get the word out.
Sorry, Kayla, if you could just use your microphone.
Yeah, anything that would come from the town, we would be able to do that. Policy was directed more towards third-party organizations.
Thanks for clarification.
Okay. Any further discussion, debate, or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, motion is carried. All right, that takes us on to new business, number 9.1, appointment of Heritage Officer. There's a motion to appoint Hillary Grant as a Heritage Officer for the town of Lunenburg as per section 19 of the Heritage Property Act. You were slower on the draw than I expected you to be. Moved by Councillor Hertz, seconded by Councillor Sanford. Any comments, questions, discussion, debate? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, the motion is carried. Congratulations, Hillary. That takes us on to 9.2, additional budget for replacement vehicle for the water utility, and I will turn it over to staff to present their report.
Thank you again, Your Worship. The half-ton truck used by the water utility was involved in a motor vehicle collision at the four-way stop at Lilydale back in January. Fortunately, there were no serious injuries sustained by any party in the incident, but there was significant damage sustained to the water utility's truck, and it was later assessed as a write-off by our insurance company. The vehicle in question was a 2005 Chevy Silverado with approximately 190,000 kilometers on it. The town had recently paid for some repairs and a vehicle inspection with the aim of getting a couple more years out of the truck before a planned replacement in the 24-25 fiscal year. So the water utilities infrastructure covers a relatively wide expanse, including the water treatment plant on Northwest Road. At Dares Lake, we have the pump house, the intake structure, and the surrounding area in the watershed. We have the standpipe at Garden Lots. And then we also have the system within town, making a dedicated vehicle for the water utility a priority for us. The lack of an available vehicle for the water utility directly impacts their operations, but also has flow-on effects for other town divisions such as wastewater and public works if vehicle sharing is required. In terms of the financial impact, the amount received in the settlement for the written-off vehicle was $6,332. Based on the current market conditions, staff are recommending an additional $25,000 be added to the water utility capital budget to provide a total of $31,332 available for a replacement vehicle. There is capacity within the water utilities depreciation fund to support this cost. There's a draft motion for your consideration.
Thank you, Tyson. Councillor Halverson.
Thank you, through your chair. Just wondering, maybe this, I'm not sure if Tyson or Elise would be best to answer this. You say this vehicle was scheduled to be replaced in was it 24-25? What does, and that I assume would have come out of a capital budget at that point, just like we're talking about here. So what does pulling it out of the reserve, how does that impact that budgeting? Obviously that's money that's coming out of depreciation fund where it would have come out of, I guess, the general budget, the general revenues at some point. How does that work?
It would have come out of probably out of the depreciation fund at that time too, because it's in the water utility, not in the town general fund.
Right.
So
Okay.
it has minimal impact.
Okay. So we're basically just moving the timetable up.
unfortunately, just because of the accident, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? I just have one quick one, and it's kind of unrelated to this, but I remember last year during budget discussions, we were talking about a fleet analysis for public works needs, and I'm just wondering, are we going to see that this year, or where is that at?
That is being worked on. I don't know if we'll see it in this budget discussions, but you'll see it sometime in this fiscal year.
Okay, thank you. There's a draft motion provided. Is anybody's pleasure to move that? Moved by Counselor Halverson, seconded by Counselor Ernst. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. That takes us on to our in-camera meeting, and there is a draft motion there to meet in camera pursuant to section 22(2) of the Municipal Government Act, moved by Counselor Sanford, seconded by Counselor Duggan. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried, and we will take a 10-minute recess and reconvene at 6:21.